The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee, a scent that had become numbingly familiar over the past 3 weeks. Han Yuna sat in one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs, her school uniform rumpled, her backpack at her feet, staring at the door her mother had disappeared through 40 minutes ago. Another test, another consultation, another round of doctors whispering in serious tones about things Yuna wasn't supposed to overhear, but always did. At 17 years old, Yuna had become an expert at reading the subtle shifts in her mother's expression, the carefully neutral tone that meant bad news, the forced brightness that meant things were worse than they seemed. And lately, everything about Park Mi-Sook screamed that something was very wrong, even though she kept insisting she was just tired, just stressed, just getting older. Yuna knew better. She had known for weeks now, even before the symptoms had become impossible to hide. The weight loss. The exhaustion. The way her mother would clutch the kitchen counter as if the world was spinning. The pills hidden in the bathroom cabinet that Yuna had found by accident. Bottles with names she had looked up online. Her stomach dropping as she read about cancer and chemotherapy and survival rates. Her mother was sick. Dying, maybe. And she was pretending everything was fine, probably to protect Yuna from worry. Because that's what Park Mi-Sook did. She protected. She sacrificed. She put Yuna first in every decision, every choice, every moment of every day since she had adopted her 17 years ago. Yuna's phone buzzed. A message from her best friend asking about the college entrance exam results that had been posted that morning. Yuna had gotten into Seoul National University, top of her class, full scholarship. It should have been the happiest day of her life. Instead, she was sitting in a hospital waiting room, watching her mother pretend she wasn't dying, feeling like her entire world was balanced on the edge of a knife. The door opened and Mi-Sook emerged, smiling that too bright smile that made Yuna's chest tighten. She was a small woman, barely reaching Yuna's shoulder now that Yuna had grown tall. With gray-streaked hair she refused to dye and laugh lines around her eyes that had deepened into permanent grooves. She had been beautiful once, Yuna thought, though Mi-Sook always brushed off compliments about her appearance, saying that true beauty came from character, not genetics. "All done," Mi-Sook said cheerfully, too cheerfully. "Just routine checkups, nothing to worry about. How was school?" "I got into SNU," Yuna said, watching her mother's face carefully. "Full scholarship. They want me for their pre-med program." Mi-Sook's face lit up with genuine joy, the kind that temporarily erased the shadows under her eyes. "Oh, Yuna, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." She pulled Yuna into a hug, and Yuna felt how thin her mother had become, how fragile, like holding a bird. "What did the doctor say?" Yuna asked when they pulled apart. "Really say?" "Just that I need to rest more, take my vitamins, the usual." Mi-Sook waved a hand dismissively. "Nothing serious. Now come on, let's go celebrate your acceptance. We can get your favorite ramyun and watch a movie." Yuna wanted to call her out on the lie, wanted to demand the truth, but she also understood the game they were playing. If Mi-Sook admitted she was seriously ill, Yuna would drop everything to take care of her, would defer university, would sacrifice her future, and Mi-Sook would rather die than let that happen. So Yuna smiled and agreed to ramyun and a movie, and pretended she didn't see her mother wince with pain as they walked to the car, pretended she didn't notice how her mother had to pause and catch her breath after climbing just one flight of stairs to their small apartment. What Yuna didn't know was that while she had been waiting in that hospital lobby, her mother had been receiving devastating news. Stage 4 cancer, inoperable. Maybe 6 months, the doctor had said, if they were lucky. Maybe less. And there was something else. Something the doctor had said that had planted an idea in Mi-Sook's mind, an idea that had been growing for years, but she had never had the courage to act on. "Does Yuna know she's adopted?" the doctor had asked gently. "Yes," Mi-Sook had replied. "I told her when she was 5. I wanted her to grow up knowing the truth, knowing she was chosen and loved." Has she ever expressed interest in finding her biological parents? Because with her condition, having access to her genetic medical history could be important. And if she needs a transplant, a biological relative would have the best chance of being a match. Mi-Sook's hands had clenched in her lap. "What condition?" The doctor had looked surprised. I'm sorry. I assumed you knew. The blood work shows early signs of kidney disease. It's manageable now with medication and lifestyle changes, but long-term, she'll likely need a transplant. Has she been experiencing any symptoms? Fatigue? Swelling? Mi-Sook had thought about how Yuna had been tired lately, how she had complained of her legs hurting, how she had dismissed it as stress from studying. She's been working hard for university entrance exams, Mi-Sook had said weakly. It's probably related to that stress, the doctor had reassured her. But we should keep monitoring it. And honestly, Mrs. Park, given your own health situation, if something happens to you, Yuna will need support. Having contact with her biological family might be beneficial, not just medically, but emotionally. That conversation played on repeat in Mi-Sook's mind as she and Yuna sat on their worn couch eating ramyeon and watching a drama neither of them was really paying attention to. Yuna had a potentially serious medical condition. Mi-Sook was dying. And there was someone out there, someone who had given birth to Yuna and then given her away. Someone who might be able to save her daughter's life if it came to that. Mi-Sook had never told Yuna that she knew who her biological mother was. It wasn't information that came with most adoptions, but Mi-Sook's case had been unusual. She had worked as a teacher at an elite private school in Seoul, and one of her students had been Seo Ji-Woo, a brilliant, beautiful girl from one of Seoul's wealthiest families. Ji-Woo had gotten pregnant at 18, and her parents had been horrified, had hidden her away for the pregnancy, had arranged a closed adoption before Ji-Woo had even been allowed to hold her baby. Mi-Sook had been teaching at the school when Ji-Woo had returned after giving birth, hollow-eyed and broken. She had watched the girl deteriorate over the following months, had tried to help, had finally learned the truth when Ji-Woo had broken down crying in an empty classroom, confessing everything. And when Ji-Woo had asked, desperate and ashamed, if there was any way to find out if her baby was okay, Mi-Sook had made a decision that would change all their lives. She had been trying to adopt for years, going through the exhausting process of applications and home visits and waiting lists. When she heard that a newborn was available, a healthy baby girl whose mother had been forced to give her up, Mi-Sook had known. She had put the pieces together. And she had adopted Yuna without ever telling Ji-Woo, thinking at the time that it was the kindest thing to do, to let the girl move on with her life without the constant reminder of what she had lost. But Mi-Sook had kept track of Ji-Woo over the years, had followed her career from a distance. Ji-Woo had become an architect, successful and acclaimed, never married, no other children. And Mi-Sook had often wondered if she had made the right choice in keeping them apart. Now, facing her own mortality and Yuna's potential medical crisis, she knew she had to do something. She had to reunite mother and daughter before it was too late. Across the city, in a sleek office building in Gangnam, Seo Ji-Woo sat at her drafting table, reviewing the designs for her latest project. At 35 years old, she was one of Seoul's most respected architects, known for her innovative designs that somehow managed to blend modern aesthetics with traditional Korean elements. Her office walls were covered with awards and framed magazine articles, evidence of a career built on relentless work and single-minded focus. What no one knew, what Ji-Woo had never told anyone, was that every building she designed, every space she created, was done with one person in mind. A person she had never met but thought about every single day. A daughter who would be 17 now, almost an adult, living somewhere in Seoul or maybe beyond, with no idea that her biological mother spent hours imagining what she looked like, what she sounded like, what kind of person she had become. Ji-Woo had a file in the bottom drawer of her desk, one she pulled out on nights when the loneliness became unbearable. It contained everything she knew about the adoption, which wasn't much. Closed adoption, baby girl, healthy, placed with a good family. That was it. That was all she had been allowed to know. Her parents had made sure of that, had paid whatever it took to ensure complete anonymity to protect the family reputation from scandal. She had been 18 and stupid and in love, or what she thought was love. The boy's name had been Kim Jun-seo, a fellow student, popular and charming and utterly unwilling to take responsibility when Ji-Woo had told him she was pregnant. He had suggested she get rid of it, had actually used those words, get rid of it, as if their child was a problem to be solved rather than a life to be cherished. When Ji-Woo had refused, He had disappeared from her life so completely, it was like he had never existed. Her parents' reaction had been worse. Her mother had cried as if someone had died. Her father had immediately started making phone calls, finding doctors, arranging for Ji-Woo to be sent away to a private facility where she could give birth out of sight. They had told her it was for the best, that she was too young, that keeping the baby would ruin her life and the family's reputation. They had promised her that adoption was the loving choice, that giving the baby to a family who was ready for a child was the kindest thing she could do. Ji-Woo had believed them at first, or tried to. But when she had given birth, when she had held her daughter for those brief, precious moments before they took her away, she had known with absolute certainty that she was making a mistake. She had tried to fight it, had begged to keep her baby, had screamed and cried and pleaded. But she was 18 and powerless against her parents' wealth and determination. They had taken her daughter away, and Ji-Woo had never recovered. She had gone back to school in a daze, had graduated, had gone to university as her parents expected, had built a successful career. But every achievement felt empty. Every award felt meaningless, because she had failed at the one thing that really mattered, protecting her child. For years, Ji-Woo had fantasized about finding her daughter, but closed adoptions were exactly that, closed. Unless the child chose to search for her biological parents upon turning 18, there was no legal way for Ji-Woo to find her. And why would her daughter want to find the woman who had given her away? Ji-Woo had nothing to offer but apologies and regret. Her phone rang, jarring her from these dark thoughts. An unknown number. Ji-Woo almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Miss Seo?" The voice was female, middle-aged, uncertain. "My name is Park Mi-Sook. You don't know me, but I need to talk to you about something very important. About someone you knew a long time ago." Ji-Woo's heart began to pound. "Who is this, really?" "I was a teacher at your high school," Mi-Sook said. "I knew you when you were a student. I know about what happened to you, and I know about your daughter." The room spun. Ji-Woo gripped the edge of her desk. Who told you?" "Can we meet?" Mi-Sook asked gently. "Please, this is important. There's something you need to know." They arranged to meet the next day at a cafe in Insadong, neutral territory, public but quiet. Ji-Woo barely slept that night, her mind racing with possibilities. Had something happened to her daughter? Was she in trouble? Was she trying to find Ji-Woo? Or was this some kind of cruel prank or scam? When Ji-Woo arrived at the cafe, she spotted Mi-Sook immediately. The woman was small and neat, wearing a simple dress and cardigan, her hair pinned back, her expression kind but serious. She looked like a teacher, Ji-Woo thought, like someone who cared deeply about her students. "Thank you for meeting me," Mi-Sook said after they ordered tea. "I know this must be confusing and probably frightening. I'll be direct. 17 years ago, I adopted a baby girl. Your daughter, Ji-Woo." Ji-Woo felt the world tilt. She grabbed the table to steady herself, her vision blurring. What? Her name is Yu-Na," Mi-Sook said softly. "Han Yu-Na. And she's wonderful, smart, kind, funny, stubborn. She just got into Seoul National University with a full scholarship. She wants to be a doctor. She's everything you could hope your child would become." Tears were streaming down Ji-Woo's face, though she hadn't even felt them start. "Why are you telling me this now, after all these years?" Mi-Sook's expression grew sad. "Because I'm dying. Stage 4 cancer. Maybe 6 months. And Yu-Na is developing kidney disease. She may need a transplant someday. I can't be her donor, obviously. But you might be able to help her. And even if you're not a match, she deserves to know the truth. Deserves to know that you didn't want to give her up, that you were forced, that you've thought about her every day since." "How do you know that?" Ji-Woo whispered. "Because I was there," Mi-Sook said. "I saw you break down in my classroom when you came back to school. I saw your pain. I've watched you from a distance over the years, seen how you never married, never had other children, built your career, but never seemed truly happy. I know because I'm a mother too. I know what it looks like to love a child so much it shapes your entire life." Ji-Woo was openly sobbing now, not caring who saw. "Does she know about me? Does she hate me?" "She knows she's adopted. I told her when she was young, but she doesn't know who you are, and… Mi-Sook hesitated. She said several times that she has no interest in finding her biological parents. She sees me as her real mother, which I am, in every way that matters. But I think she needs to know the truth. I think you both do. Before I die, I want to give you both that gift. What if she doesn't want to meet me? Ji-Woo asked, her voice breaking. What if she hates me for giving her up? That's a risk, Mi-Sook admitted. But it's a risk I think is worth taking. Because I've seen the way she looks sometimes when she thinks no one's watching. There's a loneliness in her, a sense of being unmoored. I love her with everything I am, but I can't give her what you can. Answers to questions she's afraid to ask, a connection to her biological history, and maybe, if she's open to it, a relationship with the woman who gave her life. Ji-Woo wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. How would we even do this? You can't just tell her and expect… I have a plan, Mi-Sook said. It might seem manipulative, but I think it's the only way. You're an architect, correct? You design public buildings, schools, libraries? Yes, Ji-Woo said, confused by the change in direction. I taught at Hanguk Arts High School for 30 years before I retired. They're planning to build a new library, and they need an architect. I still have connections there. I can recommend you for the project. You'll come to present your designs, and I'll make sure Yuna is there. She volunteers at the school sometimes, helping current students prepare for university entrance exams. You want us to meet accidentally? Ji-Woo asked. I want you to meet as people first, Mi-Sook corrected. Let her get to know you without the weight of your connection. Let her see who you are, what you've become, without all the complicated emotions of biology and abandonment clouding things. Then, when the time is right, I'll tell her the truth. It was manipulative. It was risky. It could backfire spectacularly, but Ji-Woo found herself nodding because the alternative was never meeting her daughter at all, never having a chance to explain, to apologize, to maybe, possibly, build some kind of relationship. Okay, Ji-Woo said. Tell me what to do. 2 weeks later, Ji-Woo found herself standing in the familiar hallways of Hanguk Arts High School, the place where her life had changed forever 17 years ago. It looked different now, renovated and modernized, but the bones were the same. She could still remember the classroom where she had broken down crying, the bathroom where she had first realized she was pregnant, the parking lot where Jun Seo had told her he wanted nothing to do with their child. She pushed those memories aside and focused on the present. She was here to present her library design to the school board, just a normal professional engagement. Except her heart was pounding and her hands were shaking because somewhere in this building was her daughter, and she might see her, might speak to her, might finally have a chance to be in the same room with the child she had never stopped loving. The presentation went well. The board loved her design, a modern space with lots of natural light and curved walls that created intimate reading nooks while maintaining an open, welcoming feel. They asked questions about timelines and budgets and sustainability features, and Ji-Woo answered professionally, her architect persona firmly in place. After the meeting, as she was packing up her materials, Mi-Sook approached her. That was wonderful. I think you'll get the project. She paused. Yuna is in the art room right now, helping a student with a portfolio review. Would you like to meet her? Ji-Woo's mouth went dry. Now? Only if you're ready, Mi-Sook said gently. No pressure. But she's here, and you're here, and maybe fate is trying to tell us something. Ji-Woo took a deep breath and nodded. They walked through the hallways, Mi-Sook making small talk about the school's history, pointing out renovations, giving Ji-Woo time to collect herself. Finally, they stopped outside the art room, and through the glass door, Ji-Woo saw her. Han Yuna was tall, taller than Ji-Woo had expected, with long dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She was leaning over a table covered with sketches and photos, talking animatedly to a younger student, her hands gesturing expressively. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater, no makeup, completely unself-conscious and natural, and she was beautiful, heartbreakingly beautiful. That's her, Mi-Sook whispered unnecessarily. Ji-Woo couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at this girl, this young woman, who was her daughter, who carried her genes but had grown up completely separate from her, who was a stranger and yet the most important person in Ji-Woo's world. Mi-Sook pushed open the door. "Yuna, there's someone I want you to meet. This is Miss Seo Ji-Woo, the architect who might be designing our new library. I thought you might want to talk to her about university programs. She went to Seoul National, like you will." Yuna looked up and her eyes, dark brown, sharp, and intelligent, met Ji-Woo's. "Oh, hello," she said, smiling politely. "Congratulations on the presentation. I heard the board was really impressed." "Thank you," Ji-Woo managed to say, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. "And congratulations to you on your acceptance to SNU. Your mother tells me you're going into pre-med?" "That's the plan," Yuna said. She glanced at Mi-Sook with an expression that was hard to read. "If everything works out." "It will," Mi-Sook said firmly. "You're going to be an amazing doctor." They talked for a few more minutes, surface-level conversation about university and career paths and the challenges of architecture versus medicine. Yuna was articulate and funny, with a slight sarcastic edge that reminded Ji-Woo of her own teenage self. She was also clearly devoted to Mi-Sook, touching her arm affectionately, checking to make sure she was okay when she had to sit down, bringing her water without being asked. Watching them together was both beautiful and painful. This was what Ji-Woo had given up, this closeness, this ease, this obvious deep love between mother and daughter. Mi-Sook had raised Yuna, had been there for every milestone, every tear, every triumph. Ji-Woo had missed all of it, but she was here now. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to build something. Even if it could never be what she had dreamed of, even if she would never be mom to this girl, maybe she could be something. A friend, a mentor, a presence in Yuna's life. After saying goodbye and promising to meet again to discuss the library project, Ji-Woo left the school in a daze. She sat in her car for 20 minutes, crying and laughing simultaneously, overwhelmed by the complexity of emotions coursing through her. She had met her daughter. Yuna was real, was wonderful, was everything Ji-Woo had hoped and more. Her phone rang. Mi-Sook. "How are you feeling?" "I don't even know," Ji-Woo admitted. "Grateful, terrified, heartbroken, happy, all of it at once." "That sounds about right," Mi-Sook said with a small laugh. "Listen, I think this went well. Yuna seemed to like you. Would you be willing to meet again? Maybe for coffee, just the two of you? I could arrange it, say I'm busy and ask you to give her some career advice or something." "Yes," Ji-Woo said immediately. "Yes, any excuse to see her again. Mi-Sook, thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance." "Don't thank me yet," Mi-Sook said quietly. "We haven't told her the truth. And when we do, she might hate both of us for this deception." "I'll take that risk," Ji-Woo said. 17 years of nothing, and now I have this. Whatever happens next, at least I got to meet her. Over the following weeks, Ji-Woo and Yuna met several times under various pretexts. Coffee to discuss career paths, lunch to talk about the library design, a visit to one of Ji-Woo's completed projects to show Yuna how architecture could serve communities. Each meeting was simultaneously wonderful and torturous for Ji-Woo. She learned so much about her daughter, her love of science, her dry sense of humor, her fierce independence, her obvious devotion to Mi-Sook. But she also had to maintain the charade, had to pretend to be a casual mentor instead of the woman who had given birth to her, who had thought about her every single day for 17 years. Yuna seemed to enjoy their meetings too, though she remained somewhat guarded. Ji-Woo got the sense that Yuna didn't let people in easily, that there was a wall around her heart built from years of knowing she had been given up once and being determined to never need anyone so much they could hurt her like that again. But slowly, the wall started to crack. Yuna opened up about her fears for the future, her worry about medical school being too difficult, her anxiety about leaving Mi-Sook alone when she moved into university housing. She talked about feeling different from other kids growing up, always knowing she was adopted, always wondering why her biological parents hadn't wanted her, even as she insisted to everyone that it didn't matter, that Mi-Sook was her real mom. "Do you ever think about finding them?" Ji-Woo asked one day, trying to keep her voice casual. "Your biological parents?" Yuna's expression hardened. "No, why would I? They clearly didn't want me." Some teenager who got knocked up and couldn't deal with the consequences, probably. I'm not interested in meeting someone who saw me as a problem to be solved rather than a person to be loved. Each word was like a knife in Ji-Woo's heart, but she understood the anger, even if it was directed at a false narrative. What if it wasn't like that? She asked carefully. What if there were circumstances you don't know about? It doesn't matter, Yuna said flatly. I have a mom. A real mom who chose me, who raised me, who sacrificed everything for me. I don't need some biological connection to feel complete. Blood doesn't make family. Love does. Ji-Woo wanted to argue, wanted to explain, wanted to tell Yuna everything right then. But it wasn't her secret to reveal. That was Mi-Sook's decision, and Ji-Woo had to respect that, even if it killed her to hear her daughter's anger and know it was directed at her. Meanwhile, Mi-Sook was running out of time. The cancer was progressing faster than expected. She was having good days and the bad days were becoming more frequent. She had started chemotherapy, more to give her a few extra months than with any real hope of remission. Every moment felt precious now. Every conversation with Yuna weighted with the knowledge that there might not be many more. She hadn't told Yuna about the cancer yet. She was waiting for the right time, though she was starting to realize there would never be a right time for that conversation. How do you tell your child you're dying? How do you prepare them for a loss that will shatter their world? But she knew she had to do it soon. And before she did, she wanted to make sure Yuna wouldn't be alone. She wanted to make sure Ji-Woo was solidly in Yuna's life, that when Mi-Sook was gone, Yuna would have someone who loved her, someone who would take care of her. The moment of truth came sooner than any of them expected. Yuna had been experiencing more symptoms of her kidney disease, fatigue, swelling in her ankles, headaches. She had been ignoring them, attributing them to stress, but when she fainted at school one day, she was rushed to the hospital for tests. The results were worse than the doctors had hoped. Her kidney function had deteriorated significantly. She would need medication, careful monitoring, and potentially, within the next few years, a transplant. The doctors asked again about her biological family, about genetic history, about potential living donors. Mi-Sook, sitting beside Yuna's hospital bed, knew she couldn't delay anymore. It was time for the truth. All of it. Yuna, she said, her voice gentle but firm. There's something I need to tell you. Several things, actually. And I need you to listen. Really listen before you react. Yuna looked at her mother's serious expression and felt fear crawl up her spine. What's wrong? First, Mi-Sook said, taking Yuna's hand. I have cancer. Stage 4. I've been undergoing treatment, but the prognosis isn't good. I have maybe 6 months, possibly less. Yuna felt the world drop away. No, that's not... You said it was just fatigue. You said... I lied, Mi-Sook said, tears streaming down her face. I lied because I didn't want you to worry, didn't want you to put your life on hold for me. But you deserve the truth, even if it's hard to hear. Yuna was crying now too, her whole body shaking. There has to be something we can do, some treatment. There isn't, Mi-Sook said. I've made peace with it, Yuna. I've had a good life. I've been blessed beyond measure to be your mother. But I need to make sure you'll be okay when I'm gone. Which brings me to the second thing I need to tell you. She paused, gathering courage. I know who your biological mother is. I've always known. And for the past several weeks, you've been spending time with her. Yuna's face went blank with shock. What? Seo Ji-Woo, Mi-Sook said. The architect. She's your biological mother, Yuna. She gave birth to you when she was 18. Her parents forced her to give you up for adoption. She never wanted to let you go. For a long moment, Yuna just stared at her, processing. Then her expression transformed into something between betrayal and rage. You knew? All this time you knew, and you never told me? You let me meet her. Her voice broke. How could you do this to me? Because you both needed it, Mi-Sook said. You needed to meet each other without all the baggage of biology and abandonment. You needed to see who she is as a person first. And she needed a chance to be part of your life, even if you never knew the truth. But you lied to me, Yuna shouted. Both of you. This whole time, she's been pretending to be some random mentor when really she's... She couldn't even finish the sentence. She's your mother, Mi-Sook said softly. not the mother who raised you. That's me. That will always be me. But she's the woman who gave you life, who never stopped thinking about you, who would have kept you if she'd had any choice. She deserves a chance, Yuna. You both do." Yuna pulled her hand away. "I can't deal with this right now. I can't." She was spiraling, her mind unable to process both pieces of devastating news simultaneously. Her mother was dying. The woman she'd been having coffee with for weeks was her biological mother. Everything she thought she knew was wrong. "Get out," Yuna said, her voice cold. "Both of you. I need to be alone." "Yuna, please," Mi-Sook started. "Get out!" Yuna screamed, and Mi-Sook, seeing her daughter's pain, complied. Outside the hospital room, Mi-Sook sagged against the wall, exhausted from chemotherapy and the emotional toll of the conversation. Ji-Woo, who had been called to the hospital by Mi-Sook and had been waiting in the hallway, caught her before she fell. "What happened?" Ji-Woo asked. "I told her," Mi-Sook said wearily. "Everything. About my cancer. About you. She's furious with both of us." "I should go to her," Ji-Woo said. "No," Mi-Sook said. "She needs time. She needs space to process. We'll give her that. But Ji-Woo, she's going to need you. When I'm gone, when she has to face this alone, she's going to need her mother, her biological mother. Be ready." Over the next few days, Yuna refused to see either of them. She checked herself out of the hospital against medical advice and went to stay with a friend, ignoring calls and messages from both Mi-Sook and Ji-Woo. She was angry and hurt and scared, and she didn't know how to deal with any of it. Finally, after a week of silence, Yuna agreed to meet with Mi-Sook. They sat in a park, neither of them speaking at first, just watching children play and couples walk by, life continuing around them as if the world wasn't falling apart. "I'm sorry," Mi-Sook said finally. "I'm sorry for lying to you. I'm sorry for springing all of this on you at once. I'm sorry for so many things." "Why didn't you tell me?" Yuna asked, her voice raw. "Why keep it a secret for 17 years? "Because I was afraid," Mi-Sook admitted. "Afraid that if you knew who she was, you would want her instead of me. Afraid that biology would matter more than the years I spent raising you. Afraid of losing you." "You could never lose me," Yuna said, fresh tears falling. "You're my mom. Nothing changes that. But you should have trusted me with the truth." "I know," Mi-Sook said. "You're right. I was selfish. But Yuna, she never stopped loving you. All these years she's thought about you, wondered about you, regretted losing you. She deserves a chance to know you, and you deserve to know her." "I don't know if I can forgive her," Yuna said, "for giving me up." "She was 18 and powerless," Mi-Sook said. "Her parents controlled everything. She had no choice. Everyone has choices. Not when you're 18 and your entire family is telling you that keeping your baby will ruin both your lives," Mi-Sook said gently. "Not when you're scared and alone and convinced that adoption is the loving thing to do. She made the best choice she could with the information and power she had, and she's regretted it every day since." Yuna was quiet for a long time. Then, "Are you really dying?" "Yes," Mi-Sook said. "I really am." "How long?" "Not long enough." They sat together in silence, holding hands, crying together. Finally, Yuna said, "I'll meet with her, with Ji-Woo. I don't promise forgiveness or relationship or anything else, but I'll listen to what she has to say." The meeting was arranged for the next week at Ji-Woo's apartment, neutral but private territory. Yuna arrived tense and guarded, her walls firmly in place. Ji-Woo opened the door looking terrified, her eyes red from crying. "Thank you for coming," Ji-Woo said. "I know you didn't have to. I'm doing this for my mom," Yuna said coldly. "Not for you." "I understand," Ji-Woo said, though the words clearly hurt. They sat in Ji-Woo's living room, surrounded by photos of buildings she had designed, awards she had won, evidence of a successful life that felt hollow without the most important thing. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ji-Woo took a deep breath and began. "I want to tell you everything," she said. "About what happened when I got pregnant. About your father. About my parents. About why I gave you up. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know the truth." She told Yuna the whole story, about being 18 and in love, or thinking she was in love, about the boy who had abandoned her when she told him she was pregnant, about her parents' horror and shame, their determination to hide the pregnancy and arrange an adoption, about being sent away, giving birth alone except for nurses and doctors, holding her baby for precious minutes before they took her away. "I begged them to let me keep you," Ji-Woo said, tears streaming down her face. "I screamed and cried and fought, but I was 18 and had no money, no power, no support system. My parents said if I kept you, they would cut me off completely. I would have no home, no education, no way to provide for you. They said adoption was the kindest thing, that you deserved parents who were ready for a child, who could give you stability and love and a good life. And you believed them," Yuna said flatly. "I was 18 and terrified," Ji-Woo said. "I convinced myself they were right, that I was being selfish by wanting to keep you when I couldn't offer you the life you deserved. But the moment they took you away, I knew I had made the worst mistake of my life. I tried to get you back, but it was too late. The adoption was finalized. You were gone." Yuna sat rigid, her face expressionless. "Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you fight more?" "I should have," Ji-Woo said. "You're right. I should have run away with you, should have found a way, should have been braver. I've regretted it every single day since. I've thought about you every day, wondered what you looked like, what you were doing, if you were happy. I built my entire career on the foundation of that loss, trying to create spaces where families could gather and children could be safe, trying to make up for failing to protect my own child." "That's not my problem," Yuna said, her voice harsh. "Your guilt isn't my responsibility." "I know," Ji-Woo said. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me or to absolve my guilt. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know that you were wanted, that you were loved, that giving you up destroyed me. You deserve to know that not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about you and wished things were different." Yuna's facade was cracking, tears threatening despite her best efforts to stay cold. "If you loved me so much, why did it take 17 years for you to find me?" "It was a closed adoption," Ji-Woo said. "I had no legal way to find you. I tried, believe me, I tried everything I could think of, but the records were sealed. Unless you chose to find me when you turned 18, there was no way." "Mi-Sook found you," Yuna pointed out. "She knew who you were." "Because she was my teacher," Ji-Woo explained. "She saw me fall apart after I gave birth. She put the pieces together. When she applied to adopt, she realized the baby was mine, but she never told me because she thought it was kinder to let me move on. She's protected both of us in her own way. She's loved you completely, raised you beautifully. I can never repay her for that." Yuna was crying openly now, her anger dissolving into grief. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to have two mothers. I don't know how to reconcile the woman who raised me with the woman who gave birth to me. It's too much." "You don't have to do anything," Ji-Woo said gently. "You don't owe me a relationship or forgiveness or anything else. Mi-Sook is your mother in every way that matters. I'm just someone who wants to be in your life, in whatever capacity you'll allow, even if that's nothing, even if this is the last time we speak. At least I got to meet you, to see the amazing person you've become." They sat in silence, both crying, the weight of 17 years and 2 broken hearts filling the room. Finally, Yuna spoke, her voice small and scared in a way Ji-Woo had never heard. "I'm sick," Yuna said. "My kidneys are failing. I might need a transplant. The doctor said having access to my biological family's medical history could help, that a biological relative would have the best chance of being a match if it comes to that." Ji-Woo's face went pale. "What?" "That's why Mi-Sook told me now," Yuna said bitterly. "Not because she's dying and wanted us to meet before it was too late, but because I'm sick and might need you to save my life." "That's not true," Ji-Woo said fiercely. "Mi-Sook loves you more than anything. She would never use your illness to manipulate you. She told you now because she's running out of time and wanted to make sure you weren't alone when she's gone. Well, I am alone, Yuna said. My mom is dying. The woman who gave birth to me is a stranger. My kidneys are failing, and I'm 17 years old trying to figure out how to handle all of this. You're not alone, Ji-Woo said, moving closer. I know I'm a stranger. I know I have no right to offer you this, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. If you need medical help, I'll get tested immediately. If you need emotional support, I'll provide it however I can. If you need someone to be angry at, I'll take it. Whatever you need, Yuna. I'm here. Yuna looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time saw not just the biological mother who had given her up, but a woman who was broken and grieving and desperate to make amends. A woman who was flawed and human and filled with regret. A woman who might not be perfect, but was trying. I don't know if I can forgive you, Yuna said honestly. I don't know if I'll ever be able to call you mom or think of you that way, but she took a shaky breath. I don't want you to be a stranger either. I don't know what this is or what it could be, but maybe we can try. For Mi-Sook's sake, if nothing else. It wasn't absolution. It wasn't acceptance. But it was a beginning. And for Ji-Woo, who had spent 17 years with nothing, a beginning felt like a miracle. Over the following months, as Mi-Sook's condition deteriorated, the three women formed an unexpected alliance. Yuna spent her days with Mi-Sook, treasuring every remaining moment, and her evenings sometimes with Ji-Woo, slowly, tentatively building a relationship. They talked about Yuna's future, about medical school, about the kidney disease and treatment options. They talked about Ji-Woo's work, about architecture and design and creating spaces that served communities. They didn't talk much about the past or their relationship. That was still too raw, too complicated. Instead, they focused on the present, on being there for each other, on supporting Mi-Sook through her final months. Ji-Woo got tested and was a match for a kidney donation. When she told Yuna, the girl broke down crying, overwhelmed by the gesture, by what it meant. Why would you do this? Yuna asked. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything, Ji-Woo said. I owe you 17 years of birthdays I missed, of scraped knees I didn't bandage, of nightmares I didn't comfort, of achievements I didn't celebrate. I can't give you back that time, but I can give you this. A chance at a healthy future. It's the least I can do. Mi-Sook died on a clear autumn day, surrounded by the people she loved. Yuna held her hand as she took her last breath, whispering that she loved her, that she would be okay, that she would make her proud. Ji-Woo stood in the doorway, giving them privacy but providing silent support, tears streaming down her face for the woman who had raised her daughter and loved her completely. At the funeral, Yuna stood between her two mothers, the one who had raised her and was now gone, and the one who had given her life and was now here. She felt unmoored, lost, broken by grief, but she also felt, for the first time, not quite so alone. After Mi-Sook's death, Ji-Woo didn't push for more than Yuna was ready to give. She was there when Yuna needed her, offering support and space in equal measure. They had regular dinners, spent time together, slowly built something that resembled family even if it wasn't quite mother and daughter in the traditional sense. When Yuna's kidney disease progressed and transplant became necessary, Ji-Woo donated without hesitation. The surgery was successful, and during Yuna's recovery, something shifted between them. Lying in a hospital bed, connected to her biological mother by quite literally a part of her body, Yuna finally understood what Mi-Sook had been trying to tell her all along. Love wasn't exclusive. Having one mother didn't mean she couldn't have another. Mi-Sook would always be her mom, her real mom, the one who raised her and shaped her and loved her unconditionally. Nothing could ever change that or diminish it. But Ji-Woo was also her mother, in a different way, and accepting that didn't diminish Mi-Sook's role. It honored it, actually, because Mi-Sook had wanted this for both of them. Thank you, Yuna said one day, as Ji-Woo sat beside her hospital bed. Not just for the kidney, for everything, for trying, for being patient with me, for loving me even when I couldn't love you back. I'll always love you, Ji-Woo said. That's what mothers do, even the flawed ones who made terrible mistakes. Mi-Sook used to say that family isn't about biology, Yuna said. It's about choice and love and showing up. She chose me. You gave me up. But that wasn't a choice you made freely. And now you're choosing to be here, to be part of my life. That counts for something. Does it count enough that maybe someday you might be able to call me Mom? Ji-Woo asked tentatively. Not instead of Mi-Sook, just... Also? Yuna thought about it. Maybe not Mom, that was Mi-Sook's title, but maybe something else. Something that's ours. They settled on Uma, the formal Korean term for mother, different from the casual mom Yuna had called Mi-Sook. It felt right, acknowledging their connection while honoring the mother who had raised her. As Yuna recovered and prepared to start university, she found herself drawn to pediatrics, wanting to help children the way she had been helped. She also found herself spending more time with Ji-Woo, learning about architecture, sometimes visiting work sites, appreciating the ways her biological mother created spaces where families could thrive. They visited Mi-Sook's grave together regularly, telling her about their lives, thanking her for bringing them together, promising to honor her memory by being there for each other. One day, almost a year after Mi-Sook's death, they were sitting at her grave when Yuna said, "I found something in Mom's things, a box of letters." "Letters?" Ji-Woo asked. "From you," Yuna said. "Letters you wrote to me over the years. You sent them to the adoption agency, but they were never delivered. Mi-Sook had them, she kept them all." Ji-Woo's eyes widened. "I didn't know. I sent one every year on your birthday. I thought they went nowhere." "She kept them for me," Yuna said. "There's 17 of them. I've been reading them, learning about you, about what you were thinking all those years, about how you never stopped loving me." "And?" Ji-Woo asked nervously. "And I understand now," Yuna said. "I understand that you're human, that you made a mistake under impossible circumstances, that you've been grieving for 17 years, that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to." She reached out and took Ji-Woo's hand. "Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for writing those letters even when you thought I'd never see them. Thank you for being willing to wait until I was ready." Ji-Woo squeezed her hand, tears flowing freely. "Thank you for being willing to try, for giving me a chance I didn't deserve." They sat there together, mother and daughter, connected by biology and choice, by grief and hope, by the woman who had loved them both enough to bring them together even as she was dying. Mi-Sook had given them many gifts. Yuna, the gift of a loving childhood. Ji-Woo, the gift of knowing her daughter was safe and loved. But the greatest gift she had given them was each other, a connection that had been broken and was now slowly healing. It wasn't perfect. It was complicated and sometimes painful and marked by loss. But it was real, and it was theirs. And that was enough. As they left the cemetery that day, walking side by side toward whatever future awaited them, Yuna realized something profound. She hadn't lost one mother and gained another. She had had two mothers all along, one who had raised her with unconditional love, and one who had loved her from a distance, never forgetting, never giving up hope. Both had shaped who she was. Both deserved to be honored. Both had given her gifts she would carry forever. And in the end, that was what family really meant. Not biology or legality or any single definition, but love in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms. Love that endured through separation and grief. Love that forgave mistakes and built bridges. Love that chose every day to show up and try and hope for something better. Yuna had been loved by two mothers, and in learning to love them both back, she had finally understood what Mi-Sook had tried to teach her all along. That love doesn't divide, it multiplies. And in opening her heart to Ji-Woo, she hadn't betrayed Mi-Sook's memory. She had honored it. Because the greatest tribute to the mother who raised her was becoming the kind of person who could forgive, who could love despite hurt, who could build bridges instead of walls. Mi-Sook had taught her that. And now, living by those lessons, Yuna was making both her mothers proud. The daughter Ji-Woo had never known was now someone she knew deeply. The mother Yuna had resented was now someone she was learning to love. And Mi-Sook, watching from wherever she was, could rest in peace, knowing her two girls had found each other, had found healing, had found a way forward together. That was the gift of a mother's love, not just in what it gives during life, but in what it makes possible even after death. Mi-Sook's love had brought them together, had healed what was broken, had created a family from fragments. And that love would endure, carrying them through whatever came next, connecting them always to the woman who had loved them both completely and had, in her final months, given them the greatest gift of all, each other. 2 years later, Yoona stood on the stage at Seoul National University's medical school graduation ceremony, her diploma in hand, wearing the white coat she had earned through years of hard work and dedication. In the audience, Ji-Woo sat with tears streaming down her face, so proud she could barely breathe. Beside her was an empty seat, left intentionally vacant, a place for the mother who should have been there but was watching from somewhere beyond. After the ceremony, as families gathered for photos and celebrations, Yoona found Ji-Woo in the crowd. They embraced, and for a moment, they just held each other, both thinking of Mi-Sook, both feeling her presence in this moment of triumph. "She would be so proud," Ji-Woo whispered. "She is," Yoona said with certainty. "I know she is. And I'm proud too. Proud to be your daughter. Proud that you never gave up on finding me. Proud of the relationship we've built. It had taken time. Years of therapy, of difficult conversations, of learning to forgive and be forgiven. Years of building trust, of creating new memories, of figuring out what their relationship could be without trying to force it into a predefined mold. They would never have the easy closeness that Yoona had shared with Mi-Sook. That bond had been forged through 17 years of daily life, of shared struggles and joys, of a love so deep and unconditional it had shaped Yoona's entire being. But what Yoona and Ji-Woo had was precious too. A relationship built on honesty and choice, on the decision to love each other despite the pain of the past, on the understanding that family could be created, not just inherited. They had Sunday dinners together. They texted daily. They celebrated holidays and birthdays. They were building something new, something uniquely theirs. "I have something for you," Ji-Woo said, reaching into her bag. She pulled out a small wrapped package. "A graduation gift, from both of us." Yoona unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a leather journal, beautiful and expensive, with Yoona's initials embossed on the cover, and tucked inside the first page was a letter, in Mi-Sook's familiar handwriting. "She wrote it before she died," Ji-Woo explained softly. "She gave it to me and asked me to give it to you on your graduation day. She knew even then that you would make it, that you would become the doctor she always believed you could be." Yoona's hands trembled as she unfolded the letter. Mi-Sook's words, written in the final weeks of her life, reached across the years to this moment. "My dearest Yoona, if you're reading this, it means you've graduated from medical school. It means you've achieved the dream you've held since you were a little girl, bandaging your dolls and declaring you would save the world. I'm so proud of you. I've always been proud of you. Not because of your achievements, though they are considerable, but because of the person you are. Kind, compassionate, strong, determined. You are everything I could have hoped for in a daughter. I want you to know that bringing Ji-Woo back into your life was not a betrayal of our relationship. It was a gift I wanted to give you both. She is your mother too, in a different way than I am, but no less real. She loves you with a fierceness and depth that I recognized because it mirrored my own love for you. I know it's been hard. I know you've struggled with anger and confusion and grief. But I hope, by now, you found your way to forgiveness. Not just forgiving her, but forgiving yourself for any guilt you've carried about loving her. You can love us both. You can honor both of us. Love doesn't work like that. It doesn't diminish by being shared. It grows. Use this journal to write your own story now. Not the story of the girl who was adopted, or the daughter who lost her mother, or the patient who needed a transplant. Write the story of the woman you're becoming. The doctor who will save lives. The person who will love deeply. The human being who will make a difference in this world. And know that wherever I am, I'm watching you with so much love and pride. You were the greatest gift of my life, Yoona. Being your mother was my highest honor. Never doubt that. Never doubt how much you were loved. Always and forever, Mom." By the time Yoona finished reading, she was openly sobbing, and so was Ji-Woo. They stood there in the middle of the celebration, holding each other, crying for the woman they had both loved, the woman who had loved them both enough to push them together even when it was hard. "She knew," Yoona said through her tears. She knew exactly what we needed. Even at the end, even when she was dying, she was taking care of us. That's what mothers do, Ji-Woo said softly. Both the ones who raise you and the ones who give birth to you. We take care of our children, in whatever way we can, for as long as we can. And even after we're gone, if we're lucky, our love continues to protect them. They spent the rest of the day celebrating, joined by friends and colleagues, by Ji-Woo's co-workers who had become like extended family, by the community that had formed around them. But that night, they went together to Mi-Sook's grave, still in their celebration clothes, and told her about the ceremony, about Yuna's plans to specialize in pediatric nephrology, about how they were doing, about how they were honoring her memory by being there for each other. "We're okay, Mom," Yuna whispered to the gravestone. "We're actually okay. You did it. You brought us together and we're making it work. I love her. Not the same way I love you, but I love her. And I think that's what you wanted all along." The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment, both women felt a presence, a warmth, an overwhelming sense of peace and approval. Mi-Sook was gone, but her love remained, woven into the fabric of their lives, connecting them forever. As they drove back to Seoul that evening, Yuna said, "Thank you, Oma, for being patient with me, for giving me time to come to terms with everything, for loving me even when I was angry and hurt and pushing you away." "Thank you for giving me a chance," Ji-Woo replied, "for letting me be part of your life, for understanding that I never wanted to give you up and that I've spent 17 years regretting it, for allowing me to try to make amends, even though I can never truly make up for the time we lost." "We're not lost anymore," Yuna said. "We found each other. That's what matters." And it was true. The daughter Ji-Woo had never known. She knew now. The questions Yuna had been afraid to ask had been answered. The love Mi-Sook had given them both had created a bridge between them, strong enough to carry the weight of their past and hopeful enough to support their future. They were a family now. Not a traditional one, not one that fit neatly into conventional definitions, but a family nonetheless, built on truth and forgiveness, on sacrifice and choice, on the understanding that love comes in many forms and all of them are valid. Mi-Sook had taught them that. In her life and in her death, she had shown them that being a mother wasn't about biology or legal documents. It was about showing up. It was about putting someone else's needs before your own. It was about loving so deeply and completely that you would do anything, sacrifice anything, to ensure that child's happiness. Mi-Sook had been that kind of mother. Ji-Woo was learning to be that kind of mother, and Yuna, watching both of them, understanding both of them, was learning what it meant to be loved unconditionally by two women who had given her everything in their own ways. The daughter she never knew had become the daughter she knew deeply. The mother she never had became the mother she couldn't imagine living without. And the mother who raised her, who was gone but never forgotten, had orchestrated it all, had given them this gift, had made sure that even in death, her love would continue to heal and protect and guide. That was the true miracle of Mi-Sook's love. Not that it had ended with her death, but that it had multiplied, had grown, had created something beautiful from something broken. She had taken two people who were lost and in pain and had brought them together, had given them each other, had made sure her daughter would never be alone. And now, driving through Seoul at night, the city lights glittering around them, Yuna and Ji-Woo moved forward together, not erasing the past, but learning from it. Not forgetting Mi-Sook, but honoring her by living fully, by loving bravely, by being the family she had always wanted them to be. The daughter Ji-Woo had never known was sitting beside her now, real and present and loved. The mother Yuna had resented was now someone she turned to in times of joy and sorrow. And Mi-Sook, their guardian angel, their bridge, their gift to each other, watched over them still. Because some love never dies, it just changes form. And sometimes the greatest act of love is bringing people together, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when you know you won't be there to see the full result of what you've created. Mi-Sook had done that. She had loved them both enough to push them together, to risk Yuna's anger, to spend her final months orchestrating a reunion that would outlast her own life. And in doing so, she had ensured that her love, her legacy, her gift would endure long after she was gone. That was the daughter she never knew. That was the mother who gave her up. That was the mother who raised her. And that was the family they became. Imperfect, complicated, but bound together by love strong enough to transcend death itself.